looking at up to 60% margin recurring revenue. So what we're about is this byline at the bottom of the slide. Converting backup from a major customer pain point and a cost center for your business into both a sales and profit center. Alrighty, so just quickly some of the statistics on the industry. We get questions a lot about how big is the industry, what's this opportunity, have I missed the boat, have I got in too late? The stats are as follows. The backup industry sits at about $10 billion a year, divided between hardware, software, and services. There's a big shift to online backup underway, and people can't agree on whether it's going to be, whether online backup will capture 70% market share or 90% market share, but let's use 70%. Today, the online backup market sits at about $1 billion a year, and so even if it's going to grow to $7 billion a year, the dramatic proportion of the growth is still ahead of us, but we're sort of at the cusp of the hockey stick, so to speak, in that the technology's proven itself. It's now a mass adopted technology, whereas say 4 years ago people still didn't know what online backup was, and we're now seeing rapid uptake of online backup, particularly in the small business space. So now's a pretty good time to be getting into the online backup game, I think, is really the summary there. The growth drivers are similar to the growth drivers that are driving all SaaS solutions. There's a large cloud computing mega trend that is driving applications in this direction. But cost savings and superior performance associated with online backup. It's just a far better backup at a far better price. Proliferation of distributed data, more and more data is aggregating and collecting at unprotected nodes in the network on mobile devices, on iPads, on Blackberries and mobiles and laptops. And protecting that data has never been more important. So let's turn and look at the SOS technology. Just we don't have a lot of questions here. We've got tons of comments on whether people are existing partners or evaluating. That's terrific. We've got one comment from Beyond Campbell that mobile backup is super cool. Any other questions so far? Please feel free to jump in and type those questions, and we'll move on now and start to look at the technology itself. So SOS has always been about three core things, and this really is, we take a different approach to online backup to our competition. We've always been about protect, access, and share. So protect is hardcore backup and recovery. And we're really the best in the world at backup and recovery when it comes to online backup. Access is about different ways of getting to your data and transforming that data so you can use it in different ways. And then share is what it sounds like, getting the data out to other people, whether they're friends and family or whether they're business colleagues and co-workers. Now, this slide is actually a little, I don't want to say out of date, but it's now being superseded. Well, before I flip to the slide deck on Pulse, let's just take a quick tour through the SOS core technology. So one of the best places to learn about the SOS product is definitely our website, and checking out the features side, on the features sub-nav on the reseller website. But just looking at some of the key features, built-in CDP, so continuous data protection's built in. You don't need any other modules. It'll watch the files you need backed up constantly and back them up to the cloud as soon as they've changed. Unlimited computers, this is really important. With one account, you can have 50, 100, 200 computers backing up to it, whereas with all of our competitors, they make you pay a license fee for every box. So Mozy, for example, is $3.95 a month for every laptop you connect to the grid. I think $5.95 a month for every server you connect to the grid. So if you've got 1,000 PCs across all your customers, that gets extremely expensive before you're backing up a single byte. With SOS, no license fees. You deploy the product to an unlimited number of PCs. Important though, you can charge license fees to your customers if you want, but we don't charge them to you. Global roaming access your data from any sort of web browser. Access on iPhones, we've got a native iPhone client that lets you access, share, stream. Very, very cool if you're serving the home user market. So I can now listen to all my music because I've backed it up in the cloud and I can stream it to my iPhone. No need to recover. I use that all the time when I'm driving home from work. I can play my entire MP3 library from the cloud direct to my iPhone, and my iPhone goes through Bluetooth into my car audio. So if you're serving the home user market, there's some very consumer-friendly features in the product as well. Bottom right, free integrated local backup. This is, I think, worth highlighting that we're a backup company, right? And although we're SOS online backup, we're not wedded to online backup only. We recommend you have a full local backup, and to that end, we give you a fully featured local backup system built into the product. Got some questions coming in here. Slide 15, pricing and profit again, please. Hector, I'll go back to that when we do to the Q&A and some more in a few slides' time. But also, to answer the next question, you'll get an email link to the video of this presentation, so you can go back and listen to any particular part that you're interested in. Bill London asks, are you HIPAA compliant? Yes, Bill, we are. That's actually a pretty major market for online backup services. Is any type of business touched by HIPAA, whether it's hospitals or independent medical businesses, dentists, doctors, physiotherapists. That's a very rich market for HIPAA. Matt McGlone asks, how does it work to back up SQL databases? So Matt, I'm going to talk about that in our Blue Sky service line in a few slides' time. Matt McGlone asks, what kind of bandwidth considerations are there with continuous data protection? Matt, it's very lightweight on bandwidth consumption, but we do recommend that you've got a DSL, or any sort of broadband internet connection. So if you're on a corporate network, no problem at all. But if you're on less than a DSL, online backup might not be the best way to go. Paul von Drasek says, do you have a Canadian data center? My client's concerned about data leaving their jurisdiction, differing privacy laws. Paul, do you know who your sales rep is? If you do, let me know. But yes, we just launched a Canadian data center in Toronto to serve the Canadian market. We've got a lot of partners up there in Canada, and we've been listening to our partners, so we've now got a Toronto-based data center. So if you are considering becoming a partner and you're in Canada, that should check the box. Earl Johnson says, by iPhone, you also mean any smartphone. Earl, we've got a mobile portal that works on Android, Windows 7, iPhone, and BlackBerry, and it's optimized for those different platforms. Did I say Android? And it does access and share. If you want to be able to back up the mobile device, we support iPhone and BlackBerry with other platforms coming in the future. Tim Wheeler, kudos for home user friendly. John Ryder, how do you handle PSD files, open or closed? John, we use VSS. We've got an open file backup driver built into the product, so it handles open file backup out of the box. No add-ons needed. John Marty says, can you do a full system restore? John, I'm going to show that on the next slide. Calander asks, are you co-brandable? Absolutely. So if you want it to be Calander Inc. Online Backup powered by SOS, we do that all the time. Okay, all right, so got a few more questions coming in there. Let me turn to the next slide, and then I'll address these questions as part of a talk to the presentation. Intelligent file filters, so you can tell the system what types of files to ignore, what types of files to only back up. Physical media upload, this is the ability to seed a backup so that original backup doesn't have to be transferred to the cloud over the wire, so that can really help speed things up. Powerful recovery. So you see a little calendar control there. We really should have trademarked Time Machine before Apple did. We've been doing this for a long time. Because we keep unlimited versions, which is the feature at the bottom of the slide deck there, you can very quickly get to a point where you get thousands of versions for a given file. So how do you manage that? Well, the answer to that was our timeline-based recovery engine, so that you can roll back to any point in time. And you can't see it in the screenshot, but on the calendar it shows up with little bold numbers for when there were backups. You can roll back to any given point in time snapshot on your recovery, which is extremely powerful. You can also filter your recovery in different ways so that you can search by file size, file type, machine it was backed up on, etc. Flexible scheduling, so you can back up daily, weekly, monthly, hourly, or even turn on the CDP module. Unlimited versioning. This is actually one of the reasons we're HIPAA compliant, to the question earlier. With HIPAA and Sarbanes-Oxley and some of the other regulations, businesses are required to keep data for a certain number of years. Well, with our unlimited versioning system, we keep every version of the file that gets changed. And we do that at our cost. That's completely free to you and completely free to your customers, that we keep every version of every file until you tell us not to. And unlimited archiving is another really important part of the platform. Don't be fooled by the competition. They all say archiving is different to backup. So what they do is they delete from the cloud files that you delete from your PCs. Well, the problem with that is 60% of recoveries that happen on our network are from accidental deletion. So if you accidentally delete a file on your PC, Mozy goes and deletes it from the Mozy cloud because they're not an archiving solution. Well, we don't think that serves your needs best. What we think serves your needs best is that we keep that data for you in the cloud until you explicitly tell us not to. So the solution is also an archiving solution, meaning you can sell it to your customers as both a hardcore disaster recovery and backup product, but also a data archiving tool. A few more questions here. James Chadwick, what solutions are there for IntelliCache running the local machine out of drive space? James, you can put the cache folder anywhere you like or turn it off completely. Bill Blunden says, are you going to talk about the physical security of your data center? I don't normally, Bill, but if you've got some specific questions, I can. We use Tier 3 and 4 data centers. They're all physically secured with security guards and biometric access controls. All servers are kept in locked cages. Only a very select few people can gain physical access to the network, so it's very secure. Thomas Betts says, what about backing up Exchange? Thomas, I'm going to talk about that in a few slides' time. Frankie Wong says, can you speak up a bit? I shall endeavour to. I hope the audio is okay for everybody else. Gregory Moscoa asks, for the first physical backup, I'm guessing that an external hard drive of some sort would be accepted to speed up the sync of the backups. Gregory, yes, using physical media upload, you can back up to an external drive and ship that to us, and we'll do the first backup for you. John Ryder, if you have large files, does it need to create a temp file each time just to know if it has changed? No, John, it does not create a temp file just to know if it's changed. Sharif Amar Kujar, I hope I got that right, asks, is there a flexibility on what data center we can back up to? Yes, Sharif, there is. As a partner, we can set that up during your what we call your partner delivery phase. How does unlimited versioning affect the storage space allocated from D.B? It doesn't. We provide that free of charge to both you and your customers, although you could charge your customers. Can you back up virtual servers? Yes. Will I discuss pricing? Yes. John Campbell, my company's current online backup does not back up Exchange database when online. How does SOS deal with Exchange? I'm going to talk about that with our CES team. Bjorn. Jay Peterson says, seems your solution is focused on backing up individual files. What about total system image-based backup? Yeah, Jay, we don't do image-based backup. There's nobody who does image-based backup over the wire because you just end up backing up so much unnecessary data. So on my particular PC, for example, I've got about 40 gigs of data that I need protected, but I've got 2 terabytes on my hard disk drive. So system images over the wire isn't recommended until bandwidth expands. It's probably not something you're likely to see in the market. Jenna Solis says, regarding archiving, how does that figure into cost of 20 gigabytes of data? Is the charge based on the 20 gigabytes of data or the total space consumed? Dennis, you just buy an allocation in the cloud and then you use it however you like. So it's very, very simple. Gideon Dave Newell, have you got prepared sales pitch materials for resellers to present to clients or publish on my website? Gideon, we have the most comprehensive array of marketing materials of anybody in the industry, and we're extremely proud of it. I want you to go across to our website after the webinar and go to the resellers page and hit on Partner Resource Center. Now, Partner Resource Center is an extremely rich library of sales and marketing and technical tools that you use to sell online backup. We also run training every week for our partners. We run sales training, technical training, and support training. Every week there's training going on every day that you can attend, and I'm going to spend a little more time on the PRC. But before I do, let's turn and look at the Pulse technology, because this is pretty exciting stuff, and we're just rolling it out last week, actually. Been in development a long time. So you'll remember the slide earlier where we said that SOS is all about